Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be doing another tier list of Fallout 3. This time we're going to be taking a look at all the perks in Fallout 3, and I will be ranking them according to our tier list. I believe that I have them all here, although some of them are a little bit weird, and I'll kind of explain that once we get to them. Hopefully I put them up in the correct order. It took me a little while to do this. If they're out of order, I do apologize, and if I end up calling one perk a different perk, then I also apologize for that. Anyway, let's begin, and we're going to be going down from level. So every level you get a perk in Fallout, you only get access to new perks every 2 levels. So 2, 4, 6, 8. We have our first one, which is Black Widow. This one is only available if you are a female character. We also have Lady Killer here, which is only available if you are a male character. They both have the same effect, and that is you get 10% bonus damage when fighting with the opposite sex. And you also get unique dialogue options with the opposite sex. So if you are a female talking to a male, you may get a few options. Same goes if you're a male talking to a female. Now, right away, Black Widow is going to be better than Lady Killer for the simple fact that the majority of time when you are fighting other human characters, they are more likely to be male characters than they are to be female characters. So you just get more benefit out of this, as well as I believe that there's more unique male characters that have stronger weapons or stronger armor than there is female characters. A good portion of the fighting that you're going to do in Fallout 3 is against other humans. So both these perks are really well. And I'd put Black Widow up into A tier. I'd put Lady Killer into B tier. Both are strong, but Black Widow is definitely stronger than Lady Killer is. Next up, we have Daddy's Boy / Girl. This just varies depending on your gender as well. Other than that, it's just a name thing. They both do the same thing, which is you get +5 more medicine and you get +5 more science. That's pretty bad. You'll just get enough points to level up anyway. If you're going high into intelligence, this isn't really that necessary, and it's pretty much like D tier. Next, we have Gun Nut, which is very similar to Daddy's Boy or Daddy's Girl, which is that you get 5 more stats to small guns and to repair. Those stats are very useful. They are arguably 2 of the most useful stats in the game, but this is still a D tier perk because you don't need it. If there's nothing left, then take it if you would like. Then we've got Intense Training, which Intense Training you can get up to 10 times. Some of these other perks, like these ones, you can get up to 3 times. These ones you can only get 1. But Intense Training you can get 10 times. And this makes it so you can put 1 point to any of your special stats that you would like. Now, this can be pretty good because 1 more point to your special stats gets you more stat points and allows you to do a couple other things like unlock certain perks. So it's pretty useful there, but if you want to build up your character, it's probably not worth building them all the way up like all 10 points, simply because there is a perk at level 30, which is called Almost Perfect, that will get all of your base stats up to 9. And then if you get all the bobbleheads, you get +1 on there. You also don't want to max out any of your special stats if you plan on taking that perk too. So for that, it's still probably like a B tier perk, but I'm going to put it on the low end of B tier because it is useful. And it's usually what I take early on just because a lot of the other perks early on are not that great. Next, we have Little Leaguer. This works just the same way as Gun Nut, but it goes for melee weapons and explosives. Another D tier perk, you don't need it. Then we have Swift Learning. This gives you 10% more XP every time you earn XP, and you can also get this one 3 times. This one might sound a little bit better than the others, but it honestly isn't because you will get to max level pretty easily in Fallout, especially if you're playing through the DLCs. You don't really have to go out of your way to be like trying to farm experience points. You'll get enough just playing the game regularly, so this is another like D tier perk. You don't need it. Ooh, whoop, that one is not what I said it was. This one's Swift Learner. What the heck is this one? I'm going to put it down here somewhere. We'll figure out where that one goes later. So we'll put that one into D tier. And then we have Thief, which Thief is for lockpicking and sneak. Again, 2 important skills, but not necessary, so another D tier perk. Then we go on to the level 4 perks, where first we have Child at Heart. Child at Heart makes it so that you unlock some unique dialogue options with children. This can be useful. You can get through a few quests a little bit quicker with this, as well as you can get a few extra experience points from talking with the various kids at certain locations, but there's not a whole lot of kids in Fallout 3 that you can really talk to that will make good use of this perk. So it's really not all that fantastic either. I'd put it on the higher end of D tier, but it's still not something I would go for very often. Comprehension makes it so you get an additional skill point whenever you read a skill book. This one can be really good, and if you're playing the base game of Fallout without any of the DLCs, then it's probably necessary for you to actually get a full, like, maxed out build if you would like. Or at least the closest thing you can to it. But if you do have all the DLCs for Fallout 3, it's not really all that necessary. If you're not going with an intelligence build, it's nice to have. And for that, I'd probably put it into C tier, but it's just a little bit of a bonus whenever you pick books. Next, we have Entomologist. Entomologist makes it so that you do 50% more damage to all insects. That's pretty useful because it works against fire ants and it works against the albino rad scorpions, the giant rad scorpions. It doesn't matter if you're shooting cockroaches with this, but it is a good perk for all the others, so I'd put this one high up into B tier. Iron Fist gives you 5 more base damage to your unarmed. And you can get this 3 times, so you can have 15 more damage to any of your unarmed weapons. This includes your base fists as well as any of the other unarmed weapons. This is really good if you want to go with an unarmed build, and definitely something that you should take. It's not entirely necessary on any other build, though. So it's a little bit situational, but for what it does, I think I'd actually put this one up into A tier. You do get a sizable amount of damage at the very start of the game with this, especially if you can find something like Spike Knuckles or a Power Fist early on. Scoundrel gives you 5 more speech and barter. This is a level 4 perk, and it should be with the other level 2 perks. It's down in D tier. I'm going to put it even lower because you actually have good choices at level 4. Oh, okay, I figure out which one this one is. This one is Educated. Sorry, I missed this one. This one makes it so that you get 3 more skill points per level. This is similar to Comprehension in that it's useful if you're not going with an intelligence build. If you are going with an intelligence build, it's kind of redundant. You don't need it. It can still be kind of useful if you just want to make sure that you have 100 points on every skill if you would really like that. But aside from that, it's not entirely needed. And I would say that it's weaker than Comprehension. So I would still put it into C tier, but lower than Comprehension because Comprehension does give you a sizable increase over Educated, just based on the fact that you have so many books available to you. Now at level 6, we have Bloody Mess, which this gives you 5% more damage overall and gives you more violent animations. 5% doesn't usually matter all that much. It is a nice bonus to have on top of your weapons, but there is stronger bonuses for this. I'd put this one on the low end of B tier. It's good, but it's not super useful, and you don't always need it. Demolitions Expert gives you 20% more damage with all of your explosives, and you can take this 3 times. So you can get 60% more damage with all of your explosives, which is pretty useful for like the bottle cap mine, or just regular frag grenades can kill enemies very easily then. And I'd probably put this one up into A tier as well. It's quite good. Next is Fortune Finder, which this one makes it so that you get a considerable amount more bottle caps whenever you're searching through containers. This is nice early on. It really is, because then you can actually buy some decent stuff if you need to, or if you want to. You can buy more ammo, you can buy more stim packs, you can buy more whatever else you need. After the early game, it really starts to fall off to where you don't need bottle caps all that often for most missions or anything. So I'd probably put this one in the low end of C tier. It's kind of handy to have early on, but that's about it. Then we've got Gunslinger. Gunslinger gives you 25% more accuracy in the VATS with one-handed weapons. This is one-handed range weapons, so this doesn't count for like melee weapons or unarmed weapons as far as I'm aware, but that should be pretty much maxed out when you're in range to use them. This one's pretty useful. It makes weapons like the 44 Magnum be pretty consistent in VATS. VATS can be really strong with certain weapons. It can be really strong with the Alien Atomizer. VATS is pretty strong in Fallout 3 in general. I would put Gunslinger probably up into B tier. Lead Belly's up next, and this makes it so that you get 50% reduction in radiation taken whenever you're drinking from a water source. That's really not that good. You already have other ways to minimize how much radiation you're getting from drinking from anything, whether it be a fountain or just from a water source. You're probably not going to just be drinking from like toilets that have high radiation. You're probably going to be drinking from something like a water fountain, which has low radiation to begin with. And then if you pop something like Rad-X, which is very prevalent throughout the wasteland, you don't need Lead Belly, and it's probably another D tier perk. It's pretty underwhelming. Toughness makes it so that you get 10% more damage resistance permanently. This one's really good. Damage resistance helps you against everything that you get hit by, and you're probably going to get hit a decent amount of times in Fallout. So I'd put this one at the top of A tier. It's very good to have. Actually I'll put Toughness at the low end of S tier. There's no reason not to take toughness on pretty much every build because you're likely going to get hit unless you're running like an incredibly sneaky build. Commando does the exact same thing that Gunslinger does, but with two-handed weapons, so rifles and shotguns. This is even better because a lot of the best weapons are rifles and shotguns, so I'd put this one up into A tier. Next we have Impartial Meditation. This gives you 30 more speech when you have neutral karma. Now if you can maintain neutral karma, that extra 30 points is definitely worth it. And early on, another 30 points of speech can be useful for trying to hit those speech checks. That being said, most speech checks aren't really necessary for you to hit. You can also just do the trick of saving before a speech check and reloading until you get it. So this one's really not that great, but it does give you a little bit of value, so I think I'd put this one on the very low end of C tier. It's bordering on D tier. Next is Rad Resistance. This just makes it so that you get 25% additional radiation resistance. This one's pretty nice to have. It's not entirely necessary because, like I said, Rad-X is widely available to you. You can wear some like radiation resistant gear and be fine. There's not a whole lot of areas in the game that are super irradiated that you have to go in very frequently. So this doesn't give you tons of value, but it does give you some value. So I would put this one on the high end of C tier. It's nice to have. Scrounger considerably increases the amount of ammo that you'll find in containers. This is really good early on because it can be a little bit of a struggle if you don't know some tricks in Fallout 3 to get some extra ammo. Once you do know those extra tricks though, it's not as bad. And if you plan on going with a melee or unarmed build, this one's not super useful, so I think I'd put Scavenger into like C tier. Next up is Size Matters. This gives you 15 more big guns. This is pretty awful. It's the same as like some of these other perks that you can get early on where you get 5 and 5. This you have to wait to get 15 of a certain point, and big guns is the worst skill to actually get up for a pretty well-known reason in Fallout 3. There is one location on the map where you can wait, I believe it's 3 days or maybe it's like 70 something hours, and then it will respawn a raider that you could kill that has a big guns book on them, which means you can go from pretty much no points in big guns to max out big guns just by using this exploit over and over. And this works on consoles, it works on PC. So I'd put this one into D tier too. I think it's probably one of the worst perks or the worst perk in the game. You don't get really much out of it. Next is Strongback. Strongback gives you 50 more carry weight. That's really good. It's always nice to carry more stuff. I love collecting a bunch of garbage, and this lets me collect even more. I'd put this one up in A tier because I run it with pretty much every build, and it's good on anybody that can take it, whether you're running a melee build, unarmed build, gun build, sneaky build, whatever it is. You can always carry more stuff. Next up is Animal Friend, which has 2 levels to it, and the levels kind of change what this does. This makes it so hostile animals become friendly at rank 1. At rank 2, they will come to your aid against other animals. I think this affects up to Yaoguai, and this does not affect things like the giant rad scorpions, the albino rad scorpions, just the regular rad scorpions because those are insects, and it also doesn't apply to things like death claws or the mirelurks. So this one is pretty limiting on how useful it is, but it is kind of nice to have because if Yaoguai does show up to start fighting something for you, that is handy. And even if you get something like a mole rat to come and fight for you, it's a little bit useful just because something else is getting attacked other than you. And you also don't have to worry about it being a companion that may die or may be injured to where you need to heal them. So I'd put this one into the low end of C tier. Again, it's one that I don't take, but it has value. Next up, we have Finesse. This gives you 5% more crit chance, which is really good because crits are very strong in Fallout, and there's really no reason not to take this one. It's S tier. It's very good on pretty much every build. Next is Here and Now. Here and Now just instantly gives you a level up. That's pretty bad. You don't need to do that. You'll get plenty of experience and you're kind of wasting a perk point. This is D tier, bottom of D tier. Next is Mr. Sandman. This makes it so you can instantly kill any sleeping non-player character and earn bonus experience. Realistically, there's no reason to ever use this unless you're playing like you want to just play an assassin build and go with all the assassinating type stuff. That's the only reason to ever use Mr. Sandman. Beside that, you don't get really that much experience, and if you want to kill somebody when they're sleeping, you can do that pretty easily with just regular guns or melee weapons or unarmed or whatever it might be. So again, another D tier perk. Next we have the Mysterious Stranger, which Mysterious Stranger is pretty awesome. He can show up during a VATS usage and then start shooting the enemy, and he'll usually kill him. It's really nice when he does show up, and he's pretty useful. I'd put him up into B tier. Next is Nerd Rage. This makes it so whenever you're below 25% of your maximum HP, you get 50% damage reduction, and your strength goes all the way up to 10 for the duration that you are at that low health. This is a trade-off, but it can potentially save your life. It doesn't always work the best against a lot of enemies, though. If you're fighting something like an albino rat scorpion or a ghoul reaver that can do damage over time, being at low health is not a good option. If you're fighting a Deathclaw, they can just rip right through your armor, so this is going to still probably kill you very fast. Against things like super mutant overlords, you die very quickly. Even with this, as it's going, you probably won't be able to survive another hit from like a tri-beam laser. It does help. It does actually help a lot if you're fighting things like super mutants that are firing very fast shooting weapons that do low damage per shot, like the Gatling lasers or the miniguns. Also, anybody using assault rifles or shotguns, anybody using assault rifles or submachine guns, this also helps mitigate the damage from, but it's still not usually a good idea to rely on this. And I'd probably put this one into C tier. You can kind of make it work, but it is difficult to get it to work. Next is Night Person. This gives you 2 more intelligence and 2 more perception between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's okay. I really never take Night Person. I don't think it's that good. You can just take something like Mentats that gives you a temporary buff if you need these stats higher. So I'd put this one into D tier, unless again you're running some sort of like meme build of trying to be super sneaky or something and only going out at night. Then it could have value. Then we've got Cannibal. Cannibal lets you eat the remains of humans. You can get health from this. It's not as good as just using stim packs. It's not a super useful perk unless again you're going with some sort of specific build and you want to have it there. Otherwise, I just put this one into D tier. Next is Fast Metabolism. This gives you 20% more HP from using a stim pack, which stim packs are based off of a certain amount of HP that they give you base, as well as how high your medicine skill is. So this can go up based on how high your medicine skill is. So that can be pretty useful. You get extra healing out of it. It's not really necessary because, again, you get so many stim packs that at least whenever I was playing through it, I never worry about running out of them. Maybe early on, but you don't get this until the middle levels, or until you start getting some traction where you should be okay on your healing and stuff, unless you're selling it because you need extra cash for whatever reason. So I'd probably put this one into C tier. It's okay. It can be useful. Life Giver just gives you 30 more hit points. That's really good. I really like this one. I'd put it up into A tier. It's not needed on every class or anything like that, but it is useful to have. Next is Pyromaniac. Pyromaniac gives you 50% more damage with fire-based weapons. This can be good if you plan on using the Shish Kebab, which is probably the best melee weapon then, or at least a contender for the best melee weapon with Pyromaniac. You can use it with the Heavy Incinerator pretty well, then you actually do a really good amount of damage with it. The Flamethrowers can get a bit of advantage with this, and weapons like the Incinerary Chinese Pistol get a little bit more value out of this. If you don't plan on using those weapons, it's not as good. And if you aren't making a build around them, then this perk also isn't that good because you likely won't be using them. You likely won't go out of your way to get it. But it can be okay, so I'd put it into like the high end of C tier, I think. Robotics Expert gives you 20% more damage towards robots, and if you sneak up on a robot, you can turn them off. If you're running high sneak, then this one's really useful for just sneaking around robots because you can just turn them all off and you don't have to worry about them. 25% more damage is really nice against Sentry Bots and Mr. Gutsies, as well as turrets, so I'd put this one up into B tier. Silent Running gives you 10 more sneak, as well as all of your footsteps and armor weight no longer affect sneaking. This allows you to move around the buildings faster if you'd like to sneak through them, which is pretty useful. The extra 10 sneak is kind of nice to have. If it was just that, then it would go down into D tier, but with the silent movement speed, it does come in handy in a lot of areas. If you would like to sneak up, and sneak crits do double damage. Crits are something you can abuse, especially with shotguns, which makes this skill actually really strong in the game. And I'd put it probably up into A tier just because of how good you are, or just because of how good it is to abuse the crit system in the game, and this just lets you do it a little bit easier and a little bit safer than you would otherwise. Next we got Sniper. Sniper makes it so you have a 25% increased chance to hit something's head when you're using VATS. That's really useful if you're using VATS, and this is definitely something you want to use if you plan on using the VATS system, or if you want to make a VATS build. I'd put this one in the low S tier, because if you're not using a VATS build, it's not that good. Adamantium Skeleton makes it so that all of your limb damage is cut in half, essentially. So you take 50% less limb damage than you normally would. That's pretty useful, although in Fallout 3, I honestly didn't have many of my limbs break all that often. Usually it happens when you're fighting somebody throwing grenades or using explosives like a missile launcher. Then it's kind of annoying, but you can heal up all of your limbs with stim packs, so it's not super necessary in this game. I'd put this one into C tier. Next we have Chemist, which makes it so all drugs last twice as long. That can be useful. Psycho and Medics are really good drugs to be running a lot of the time because damage resistance and damage is always useful. Jet can be useful. Ultra Jet can be useful. That way you get more use of your VAT system. So Chemist can give you value, and if you plan on using those, then definitely take Chemist. I'd put it into B tier. Next we got Contract Killer. This makes it so you can collect and sell ears of good people and get extra cash, and I guess get your karma lower. That's it. It's D tier. Lawbringer is essentially the opposite, where for killing bad people you get fingers, and you can sell them and get good karma and get a little bit of extra cash. It's another D tier perk. And then we have Cyborg. Cyborg gives you 10 more energy weapons, 10% radiation resistance, poison resistance, and damage resistance. That's all really good. The 10 more energy weapons, yeah, whatever, who cares? But 10% more resistance towards everything, that's pretty good. I would put this one up into A tier. Light Step makes it so that you cannot trigger any floor traps. So this is any mines as well as any tripwires that are on the ground. Oh, and any bear traps. That's not bad to have. It's not necessary because there's a good chance you could just tank through all the hits that hit you anyway. Maybe not early on, but by the time you're getting this, you can probably tank through a few mines going off. It's still kind of nice to have. Probably C tier. Next is Master Trader. This just makes it so that all items are 25% off in all shops. Kind of useful if you need to stock up on bullets, if you need to stock up on stim packs, if you don't have the highest barter, although with this you are getting barter, so your deals will even be better, so it's a little bit less necessary. I guess it's good if you want to go with like a traveling salesman build or something like that. Outside of that, it's okay. It's not bad. I'd put this one into C tier. We've got Action Boy or Action Girl. This gives you 25 more action points. That's pretty good if you want to use the VATS, and if you are using VATS, this one's A tier. If you're not using VATS, then don't take it. Next is Better Crits. This makes it so you get 50% more damage from your crits, which crits are already really strong and really good. This one's at the very top of S tier. This one's crazy. Then we've got Chem Resist. This makes it so that you are half as likely to be addicted to any chemicals that you might be taking. You could take this in combination with Chemist. It's not as good as Chemist, though, because even if you do get addicted, you can always get your addiction fixed at either a doctor or at your doctor station at your house. Neither of which are super expensive. So, and once you've already gotten up to level 16, you'll probably have enough money to get those, or to at least go to a doctor fairly regularly. So Chem Resist is C tier. It's not super useful. If it was maybe at a lower level, it could be more useful. Tag makes it so that you can tag a fourth skill. So out of your 3 skills that you picked at the start, you can pick one more to get 15 more points to it. This is awful. Put it in D tier. Next up, we got Computer Whiz. This makes it so that you can hack a locked out terminal. So you get another chance to do it. There is a trick that you can do with terminals, though, and that's just to wait until you only have one chance left, and then leave the terminal and come back, and it will reset it, and you can try again. You don't need this skill. That it's D tier. There is also this skill right here, which is Infiltrator. This lets you try to pick a lock that you've already broken, but you can only do that by forcing the lock. So again, unless you're just trying to break through locks quickly, like you are with computers, it's not needed because you can break as many lock picks as you want and keep trying at the lock. So D tier. Now we've got Concentrated Fire. This gives you 5% more accuracy in VATS every time that you attack. So you can actually get really high accuracy at a very long distance with certain weapons simply because you have enough action points to actually hit somebody from that range. And if you're running skills like Commando, Gunslinger, or Sniper, they can all really help, and this helps out a little bit more. I'd put this one up into A tier. It's really good on a VATS build. Next is Paralyzing Palm. This makes it so you have a 30% chance of paralyzing an enemy for 30 seconds with an unarmed hit in VATS. Now, you have to be completely unarmed, I believe, to get this to work, or maybe you don't in Fallout 3, I don't remember. And paralyzing enemies can be really useful. You can paralyze something like a Super Mutant Overlord. 30 seconds should give you enough time to kill it. Paralyze a Deathclaw, paralyze an Albino Rad Scorpion, paralyze a Ghoul Reaver. All of those are pretty useful to do, and if you're running a VATS unarmed build, then this one's really strong. You can also potentially just instantly kill people with this, which is a little bit weird. If you knock somebody off of a surface, it doesn't even need to be a really high surface where they will hit their head or just, I guess, hit from a certain angle. It'll just pretty much kill them. You can do this with even Super Mutant Overlords where you just punch them and they fall down a step and die. It's kind of hilarious when it does work that way. And Paralyzing Palm is probably A tier. It's really good on that particular build, but if you're not running that build, then it's obviously less useful. Explorer shows you all of the locations on the map, so then you can go and find them. This doesn't make it so you can fast travel to them. You still have to go and actually see them, walk to them the first time, which this one is kind of not really all that useful. You will have likely already found a lot of locations by the time you've hit level 20, and just wandering around the waste, you'll find pretty much everything that you want. A big portion of Fallout, at least for me, is the exploration, so Explorer I'd put into D tier. It's not a fun perk, nor is it a super useful perk in a lot of ways. Next is Grim Reaper Sprint, which this refunds all of your action points if you kill something during VATS, and like I've said, VATS is incredibly strong. So this perk is also incredibly strong because you can keep abusing VATS, and I'd put it up into A tier if you're running a VATS build. If you're not running a VATS build, then don't take it again. Then we got Ninja. Ninja makes it so you have 15% bonus crit chance with all melee and unarmed weapons, as well as you do an additional 25% more damage with your sneak crits. This does make it so that you can have a Deathclaw Gauntlet that is at 100% crit chance. It's the only weapon in the game besides the alien blasters that have a 100% crit chance, which makes Ninja pretty good. It's also really good if you're going to be running a melee or unarmed build in any way. I'd put this one up into S tier. It's also very good. Then we have Solar Powered, which makes it so that you get 2 additional strength and you regenerate 1 HP every 10 seconds while outside from the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This one does give you more bonuses than Night Person because you actually get health regeneration, which can be useful. You won't be using up as many healing meds as you otherwise would. And 2 more strength can be useful because you'll likely be able to carry stuff then. Mostly you're using this for the regeneration, and it's just kind of okay. Health regen is useful, but again, you could just go with like the fast metabolism, or you could just invest in a lot of HP, or you could just invest in a lot of medicine and take stim packs. So I'd probably put this one into B tier. It's okay. Up next, we have Deep Sleep. This makes it so when you're sleeping in a bed, it will always give you the well-rested effect, which increases your XP by 10% for 8 hours. This is unlocked at level 22. If it was unlocked at level 2, there might actually be a reason to take this. Well, no, there wouldn't, because you have like Swift Learning, which is already garbage. So this one's also D tier. Then you got Puppies. Puppies makes it so if Dogmeat dies, there will be a new puppy that spawns outside Vault 101, and that will be your Dogmeat. If you plan on getting Dogmeat killed, this is good. If you don't plan on getting Dogmeat killed, or if you don't plan on using companions, this one's not that good. I'd put this one into C tier. Quantum Chemist. This makes it so for every 10 Nuka-Colas that you acquire in your inventory, you will automatically convert them into 1 Nuka-Cola Quantum. If you want to make Nuka-Cola Quantum Grenades, or if you want to finish up Sierra's quest a bit faster, this can help. Outside of that, it's pretty useless. So I'd also probably put this one into D tier. Well, I guess I'd put it into C tier because the Nuka Grenades are decent. Then we have our Karma perk. So we have Devil's Highway, Escalator to Heaven, Karmic Rebalance. This one makes it so that you're automatically set to very bad. This one makes it so that you're neutral, and this one makes it set so that you're good. The only times I've ever used these perks is when I wanted to get the achievement for getting to level 30 with each of these karmas. That's the only time, and you can just do that on one save file. Just save before you're about to level up on level 29. Finish whatever quest you're doing, or kill an enemy, or whatever it might be to get to 30. And then just pick these, reset, pick one, reset. And you just do that 3 times and you get all the endings. Outside of that, there's really no reason to get any of these, because it doesn't really matter if you're good, bad, or neutral for the majority of the game. So all 3 of them go into D tier. Next, we have no weakness. This makes it so all of your special stats that are below the level 5 go up to level 5, which is also pretty awful. You can just wait a few more levels and get almost perfect, and it's far better than this. This is D tier. Next is rad tolerance. This makes it so you have no effects from minor radiation poisoning. Again, you're very high level to this point. Rad-X and Rad-Away should be widely available to you. You should have your own medic stand at your house, or you can go to a doctor to get the radiation removed, which you probably won't, because again, you'll probably have enough medical supplies for it. It's just simply another perk that's not good for the level that you get it at, and it's also D tier. Next is Warmonger. This allows you to get one of all of the schematics. So if you don't have them, this can be useful, although there is 3 copies of all these schematics throughout the wasteland, and the max you can get is to 3. With each one that you get, it makes it so every time that you make one of these weapons, it's at a higher durability, but there is no level like 4, so you can't just be making fully fixed up like dart guns or something like that. It's another skill, it's just not worth it. There's no real reason to take it. Even if you manage to like screw up every interaction to where somebody would give you a schematic, like for each quest, you will still be able to find, I think, at least 2 of each schematic then, or at least 1 of each schematic. So Warmonger's not really needed. I'd put it into D tier. Next we have Nerves of Steel. This gives you 1 action point every 10 seconds. So you generate action points faster. As I said, action points are pretty useful. This one's not as useful as a lot of the VAT system perks, but I'd still put it up into B tier. It's good. Party Boy / Party Girl. This makes it so you have no chance of getting addicted to alcohol. Okay, again, high-leveled perk that you could probably already have your healing station take care of, or a doctor take care of, or just simply not drink alcohol because you don't get a whole lot of bonuses from drinking alcohol. So it's another like D tier perk, unless again you want to go with like some sort of weird meme build or something where you're just not getting addicted to stuff. Next is Rad Absorption. This makes it so every 20 seconds you lose 1 radiation. Okay, this one's a little bit more useful than some of the other perks that we've talked about so far, so it's going to go up into C tier, but it's still not that great because it's almost at the very max level of the game when you unlock this, and you'll probably be able to, again, use medicine or consult a doctor for your radiation. And then we get to the level 30 perks where we have Nuclear Anomaly. This makes it so whenever you're reduced to 20 HP or less, then you will erupt in a detonating nuclear explosion, which will do massive damage to all enemies, as well as doing lingering damage to all enemies around you. Now, the main problem with this is you have to get down to 20 HP, which can be very difficult because some enemies will just flat out kill you once you drop below a certain amount of HP. And this is at the end of the game, so Deathclaws, Super Mutant Overlords, Ghoul Reavers, Albino Rad Scorpions can all kill you very quickly. This one is kind of just okay when you can get it to work, but a lot of the time there's no real reason to take it over the other level 30 perk. So I'd put this one into C tier. It's kind of fun to play around with, but that's about it. The other level 30 perk is Almost Perfect, which raises all of your special stats up to 9 that are already not at 9. If you do this, then you can go get all the bobbleheads around the map, and you will get 10 to all of your special stats, maxing them all out. This is probably one of the best perks in the game because it will likely max out a lot of your stats afterwards. So you can be fully statted out, and I'd probably put this one up into S tier. Now there is a couple more perks we have to talk about. These are all perks that you can gain through doing quests. Our first one is Covert Ops. We get this one in Anchorage. This gives you 10 more science, small guns, and lockpicking once you've found all 10 intel cases. That's a nice little bonus. I usually go and do Anchorage first, so this is useful. It's not amazingly useful though, because it is just 9 more stat points, but it's free. It's a free 9 more stat points, so I'd put this one into C tier. Then we've got Auto Expert from the Pit. We get this from collecting 10 steel ingots in the steel yard, which you have to do for a quest anyway. And this gives you 25% more damage with all the auto axes. That's really nice to have extra damage with the auto axe. The auto axe is a pretty decent weapon overall. All the versions of it, besides I think the steel saw, is pretty good. So I'd put this one up into B tier. And we've got Ghoul Ecology. This makes it so when you read Plink's journal, in Plink Safari at Point Lookout, then you'll get 5% more damage towards all enemies because this one is bugged. 5% more damage is really nice, and it's a free 5% more damage, so I'd put this one up into A tier. I'd put it higher than Bloody Mess just because you don't have to invest a perk point for it. It's just free. We also got Xenotech Expert. This is found in Mothership Zeta, and you get this by spawning and killing a random number of enemies in at a certain point in the mothership. This just gives you 20% more damage with all the alien weapons, which is pretty useful. 20% more damage is always going to be good, so it's going to be A tier. After that, we have Booster Shot, which is also found in the pit. This one you get just from completing a mission, and you get 10% more radiation resistance. Probably C tier. It's free. It's nice to have. Then we've got Pit Fighter, which is also in the pit. You get this from completing a mainline quest, which gives you 3% more radiation resistance and 3% more damage resistance. I'd probably put this one up into, I guess, B tier, because damage resistance is always useful to have. Then we've got Punga Power. This is available at Point Lookout. This is also from doing a mainline quest. This makes it so you get minus 10 rads whenever you're eating a wild Punga fruit, and minus 15 rads whenever you're eating a refined Punga fruit. So you can use the Punga fruit pretty much as lower versions of Radaway, as well as they heal you. Good. I'd put this one into C tier. It's kind of nice to have. Then we also have Superior Defender, which is also in Point Lookout. You get this from a quest, or one of the main quests. And you get 5% more damage and 10% more damage resistance when standing still. Really good. I'd put this one up into A tier. Up next, we have Ant Might and Ant Sight. These both are from the quest Those during the main game, which you can pick either one of these. You will get 25% fire resistance regardless of which one you get, and then +1 perception or +1 strength. 25% fire resist is really nice, and having a +1 to any skill is really good too. I'd put both these up into A tier. It's simply based on which one you prefer more or which one you need to get certain skills that you would pick more than the other one. Bark Skin is available when you destroy Harold's Heart during the Oasis quest. This gives you 5% more damage resistance permanently. So this is a good skill. I'd put this one up into B tier. Even though this is similar to Toughness, this is during a quest line that has multiple endings. So it depends on which one you prefer. And you could argue that 5% damage resistance isn't as necessary or isn't as useful as some of the other rewards might be to you once you complete it. So that's why I put it here in B tier. Maybe I'd move it up to A tier. I guess I would. Next, we have Rad Regeneration. This is acquired from doing part of the Wasteland Survival Guide, where you get radiated up to 600 rads. And this makes it so when you do have radiation, you will start healing crippled limbs. Kind of useful, but I rarely use this. It's still free though, so I guess I'd put it up into like B tier. And then we have Survival Expert. This is also Junior Survivalist or Survival Guru, depending on how much of the Wasteland Survival Guide you do, and also what your answers are, and this can give you various bonuses based on your answers that you give to Moira. You want to be doing all of the optional quests so that you get Survival Guru, because that will give you the most amount of bonuses that you can, and then based on your answers will give you different bonuses. So you will gain 6% bonus poison and radiation resistance, and then either crit chance, additional damage resistance, additional hit points, or points to both medicine and science or speech and sneak. So usually I want to go with crits with this because 3% more crit chance is really good. Damage resistance is also really good, and radiation resistance can be useful too. So this one I'd probably put up into S tier because of how useful it is if you do manage to get all of the bonuses and you get the free extra crit damage or extra crit chance or the damage resist. For the other ones, I'd probably put it lower. And then we have Wired Reflexes. This is for siding with Dr. Zimmerman during the Replicated Man quest, which you can actually side with him and side with Hargis. Just side with Hargis first, ask him to go kill, or ask him if it's okay if you go kill Zimmerman, then go tell Zimmerman you're going to turn him in, and then just kill Zimmerman, and you get both rewards from that quest. This gives you 10% more accuracy in VATS. Very useful. I'd put this one up into S tier 2 if you plan on using VATS. And then we have our last three here. Our first one is Dream Crusher. This also has to do with the Wasteland Survival Guide, and you can get this by making Moira not do the Wasteland Survival Guide. Now this will make it so that you reduce an enemy's chance to critically hit you by 50%, 30% discounts towards the crater side supply, and 30 points to Moira's repair skill meaning that she can repair stuff better. This one isn't really all that useful, I would say. I think that Survival Guru is far better than this because it's better if you're hitting crits than if enemies just aren't hitting crits on you. Yeah, that's going to help out a bit, but I'd still probably put Dream Crusher into like C tier. It's okay. Then we have Hematophagy. I'm not sure if that's right. The vampire perk that you get from Blood Ties. You got to talk to Vance, and then he'll teach you how to become a vampire, which makes it so then you can heal more health from blood packs than you normally would. So instead of getting 1 HP, you get 20 HP. Blood packs still aren't that good for healing. Stim packs are better than it, but this is a free perk, so I'd put it into C tier. It's nice to have. Then we move one of these else up to B tier just so that we can actually still see the whole list. And then we have Power Armor Training, which makes it so that you can wear power armor. You get this from learning it from the Paladin at the Citadel, or you can get this from completing Operation Anchorage. So that's really nice to have, and power armor is probably the strongest armor in the game. I guess I'd put this one up into S tier, because power armor is really good. Maybe it's A tier. I guess it depends on if you're going to use power armor or not. So this is where I'd put all of the perks in Fallout 3. For the most part, you got some good ones to choose from. There's a lot of bad ones to mediocre ones that just aren't worth taking. Especially if you're going for a particular build. I mean, if you're not going for like a VATS build, you can disregard about half of these. If you're not going for like a crit build, you can also disregard like half of these. It just depends on what you enjoy playing. You can play however you'd like and pick any of these that you want. Thanks everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. Tell me what your thoughts are on the list down below. And if you'd like to see more stuff like this, also be sure to tell me down below. Be sure to get subscribed if you're new here. That way you get notifications whenever I post these videos. Special thanks to all my supporters of the channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. If you would like to be a part of that, that is also linked down in the description below. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!